and it's chaining effects back to back in a specific order to create a very unique sound. Now, doing this with all the effects that are on the market, certainly you can have completely original sounds that nobody's ever done before. Now, that's saying a lot. It's hard to do that. But by chaining effects, you're creating something unique, at least in the way that the processing is done. Ideally, you're going to create something that nobody else has done. It still is possible. So, once again, we're going to roll off the bottom. As you can see here, the great thing about video is you can stop and examine the sections. If you don't quite get it, just do that. We're subtracting quite a lot of dB, more than 10, in the very bottom end. And then in the lower mid-range area, we're doing the same thing. So we're really thinning it out. And on top of that, we're actually boosting several dBs, 3 to 4, in these ranges, the high end and the upper mid-range area. And the whole goal here is to get it nice and thin before we process it through the next stage. Let's hear what this sounds like. It's probably not going to sound great yet, but hold in there. Okay, that already sounds a little better. And that sounds something similar to the telephone kind of sound you hear in a lot of different productions. Now, you may think to yourself, well, I'm not doing world music, so I wouldn't do those techniques. Well, I'll tell you something. When the Beatles came along and all of a sudden these very unusual outside-of-the-box techniques came along, and groups like Pink Floyd and other groups, they became known for their sound. And they weren't doing world music either. They were doing pop or rock. And now, in every kind of music, even country music, certainly heavy metal, pop has been done for years like this. Rap, hip-hop, you name it. Almost every genre of music, with the exception of perhaps folk. But I've even heard it in modern folk, alternative folk. Think outside the box and create something unique. And this is what production is all about, is creating new, interesting sounds that really stand out. So here's our next stage. We've set up a very, very unique reverb, which is being used as a send. You'll notice that the EQ was inserted into the chain, which means that it's going to process the sound first. Then, by using the send, the reverb is going to come into play after the processing we've done on the EQ. And then, to top that off, and here's where the term treatments would come into play, we've actually, where's my track? We've placed an insert of the PSP Nitro, doing a phaser. We've changed it, slowed it down, so that the actual reverb and the EQ processing we've already done is going to go through this. Now, we're not using 100% signal on this, just because it would be too much.